First of all, correct me. I'm not supposed to say UFOs anymore, correct?
You can, but you're right. The official term is going to be unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAP.
During a squadron mission in the Trans-Antarctic Mountains, the whole crew saw a whole bunch of silver darting objects.
Antarctica, where ice swallows secrets whole, a continent so hostile, even time freezes solid. Yet something stirs beneath the glaciers. Military crews report silver disks slicing through blizzards. Scientists whisper of geometric shapes under the ice. And the missing, those who wandered too close to the truth, leave behind only questions and quarantined gear.
And not only did this happen once, it happened over and over.
Now, a Navy officer's chilling account pulls back the curtain on the world's last great mystery.
This is a legitimate satellite image of a very large, proportionate hole in the ground, or the mountain range.
What really happens at the bottom of the Earth? Former Navy pilot flew into Antarctica's no-fly zone and exposes what he saw: the Navy's encounter. It began as just another supply run, a standard mission ferrying equipment and personnel between McMurdo Station and one of the remote outposts scattered across Antarctica's frozen expanse, the C-130. Hercules, a rugged workhorse of military logistics, lumbered through the crisp polar air, its engine droning steadily against the endless white horizon. Then, without warning, something appeared. At first, I thought it was a glint of sunlight off the ice, Brian recalled. But then it moved, fast. A silver disk, smooth and seamless, shot across the sky in a way that defied physics. It made no sound. It left no exhaust trail. It simply was. Then, in the blink of an eye, it wasn't. The crew exchanged glances. No one spoke at first. Then, over the intercom, the co-pilot's voice crackled. "Did you just see that?" They had, and it wouldn't be the last time.
Suddenly, he's looking at things that shouldn't be there. I mean, it was temperate.
Over the next several months, Brian and his crew began noticing a disturbing pattern. The silver disks weren't just random anomalies. They seemed to appear in specific locations, particularly around mountain ranges and no-fly zones marked on their flight charts. One incident stood out. During a late-night flight, the crew witnessed 3 disc-shaped objects performing maneuvers that no human aircraft could replicate. The UFOs moved in perfect synchronization, accelerating, stopping on a dime, and even passing through each other as if they were made of something beyond solid matter. It was like they were showing off, Brian described. Like they knew we were watching, and they wanted us to see just how far beyond us they were. The crew reported the sighting to their superiors. The response was immediate and unsettling. Within hours of filing their report, the crew was pulled into a private briefing with 2 officers they had never seen before. The men wore no insignia and offered no names. But their message was as clear as day. You are to consider this a classified matter. No further discussion, no notes, no logs. When one of the younger crew members pressed for an explanation, the officer's expression darkened. Some things are better left unacknowledged. The no-fly zone incident. The most chilling encounter occurred when the crew was forced to deviate from their planned route due to a sudden storm. As they navigated around the turbulent weather, they found themselves skirting the edge of a strictly prohibited no-fly zone, an area marked on their maps as an air sampling station. No one had ever explained what that meant. No one ever asked. As the C-130 banked around a jagged ridge, something caught Brian's eye. A vast, unnatural opening in the side of a mountain. It wasn't a cave. It was too symmetrical, too engineered. It was huge, Brian described. Big enough to fly one of our planes right into, just about the size of a football field. And there were things moving around it. Through the cockpit window, he could make out figures in what looked human, but their movements were off, too fluid, too precise. Nearby, vehicles unlike any military or scientific equipment he recognized were entering and exiting the cavernous entrance.
Polar explorer Admiral Richard Byrd allegedly reported seeing a massive entrance to an underground world.
The complete absence of sound made the scene unnervingly surreal. These figures moved with eerie coordination, their actions unfolding in perfect, voiceless synchrony. No radio chatter broke the silence. No shouted commands, just the whisper of Antarctic wind against the aircraft's hull as the crew watched, gripped by a primal unease. This was no standard operation. No known mission could explain the cold precision below. Even now, years later, the memory lingers in Brian's mind like a half-remembered nightmare. One undeniable truth had imprinted itself on them all. What they witnessed defied every human explanation. Upon landing, the crew was met by armed security personnel. They were separated, interrogated individually, and warned, in no uncertain terms, that discussing what they saw would have severe consequences. They didn't just tell us to keep quiet. They made it clear that if we talked, we'd disappear. Not just our careers. Us. The message was clearly beyond a mere warning. It was obviously laced with psychological pressure. Whether or not it was a secret the higher-ups wanted to keep for themselves, or for the sake of the public at large, one thing remained etched in the crew's minds. This never happened. The disappearance. Lastly, and by far the most unusual of Brian's experience, was the mystery of the missing scientists. On the morning of July 16, 1985, a team of 15 scientists stationed at Base R-12, a remote Antarctic research outpost, failed to make their scheduled radio contact. At first, no one panicked. Equipment failures were common in the brutal polar environment. But when 24 hours passed without a word, unease set in. By the third day, McMurdo Station scrambled a recon team to investigate. What they found when they arrived at R-12 would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The research station was completely intact. No signs of struggle, no structural damage. The generators hummed steadily. Coffee cups sat half full on desks, still faintly warm. Computers flickered with unsent reports. But there was no trace of the scientists. Their parkas still hung on hooks. Their boots remained neatly lined up. Personal items, wallets, family photos, journals, were left behind as if they had simply vanished mid-task. Most disturbing of all, the station's emergency beacon had never been activated. For 2 weeks, search teams scoured the surrounding ice. Thermal imaging detected nothing. No footprints led away from the base. No distress signals were ever picked up. It was as if the Earth itself had swallowed them whole. Then, just as suddenly as they had disappeared, they returned. It was on July 30th, 1985. A patrol helicopter spotted figures stumbling across the ice near R-12. As the chopper descended, the crew realized with a jolt it was the missing scientists. But they were not the same men and women who had vanished. The scientists were alive quite all right, but barely. Their skin was deathly pale, their eyes sunken and unfocused. Some had lost significant weight, as if they hadn't eaten in days. Others muttered incoherently, but to themselves their speech slurred and disjointed. When questioned, they could not, or would not, say where they had been. One of the rescue medics later recounted, "It was like they'd been through something inhuman. They wouldn't look at us directly, just kept whispering about the city and the ones below." And thus, the rumors began to spread like wildfire. Military personnel arrived within hours. The scientists were forcibly separated, their personal effects confiscated. They were flown to an undisclosed medical facility, where they underwent debriefing, though rumors suggested it was closer to interrogation. The incident was classified at the highest level. Official reports listed it as a mass psychological trauma due to extreme isolation. But those who had seen the scientists' condition knew better. Something had taken them, and whatever it was, it had left them broken. The quarantined gear. The Air New Zealand cargo team handled the recovered equipment with practiced efficiency, but something about this transfer felt different. Every piece of gear from the Marie Byrd land camp, tents, instruments, personal effects, was isolated in a standalone Quonset hut at McMurdo Station. No other supplies shared the space. No personnel entered without authorization. A new lock secured the door, and the order came down clear: don't go near it. When asked why, the response was taught and rehearsed: quarantine. No further explanation was given. Days later, the crew was called in again. This time, the debriefing wasn't led by military officers or research leads. 2 men in suits arrived, sharp, out of place against the rugged Antarctic backdrop. Their attire was formal, but their footwear betrayed them. Heavy cold-weather boots, the kind built for deep field work, not office meetings. The message was delivered without preamble. You didn't find those scientists. Nothing will be said about this. No documents were signed, not even a slip of an NDA. No records kept. The absence of paperwork was deliberate, a silencing without trace. This wasn't standard protocol. Antarctic operations ran on documentation, chain of command, meticulous logs. But this was something else. A warning without explicit threat. A denial without rebuttal. Years later, Buzz Aldrin's cryptic tweet would resurface in the minds of those who had been there. We are all in danger. It is evil itself. A coincidence? Or a breadcrumb left for those who knew where to look? The gear was eventually moved, shipped to Christchurch under cover of routine transport. But those who had seen it, who had felt the weight of that silence, knew the truth. Some secrets aren't just classified, they're contained. But Brian's story is not alone. Others, pilots, engineers, and even high-ranking officials have come forward with eerily similar claims, painting a picture of a continent that is anything but barren. Other whistleblowers, a pattern of secrets. Over the decades, a disturbing pattern has emerged. Individuals from various backgrounds, each with their own harrowing accounts of Antarctica's hidden truths, have stepped forward, only to be met with skepticism, ridicule, or worse.
It broke off Antarctica 40 years ago. So large, it's visible from space.
Their testimonies, when pieced together, form a tapestry of mystery that suggests something extraordinary and possibly extraterrestrial has been unfolding in the frozen wastes of the southernmost continent. Among the most compelling of these accounts is that of Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the legendary polar explorer whose 1947 expedition, Operation High Jump, ended under circumstances so strange that even today, the full truth remains buried beneath layers of government secrecy. Byrd's official reports spoke of technical difficulties and harsh weather, but his private diary, leaked years after his death, tells a very different story. In those pages, he describes flying beyond the pole into a territory untouched by ice, a land of lush greenery and temperate climates where his plane was intercepted by disc-shaped aircraft of unknown origin. According to Byrd, he was taken to meet beings who warned him about humanity's destructive path, urging him to deliver a message to the world's leaders. Whether these entities were extraterrestrial, ancient inhabitants of the Earth, or something else entirely, remains unclear. What is undeniable is that Byrd returned a changed man, and his subsequent efforts to reveal what he had seen were systematically suppressed. Then, there is the case of the Chilean Air Force pilot who, in 2017, captured infrared footage of an unidentified object streaking across the Antarctic sky at impossible speeds. The footage, officially released by the Chilean government, shows a metallic, disc-shaped craft performing maneuvers that defy known aerodynamics. Military analysts were baffled, unable to classify the object as any known aircraft or natural phenomenon. The pilot, a seasoned veteran with hundreds of flight hours in extreme conditions, insisted that what he had witnessed was unlike anything in his experience. His account echoes those of other pilots who have flown over Antarctica, many of whom report strange electromagnetic disturbances, sudden instrument failures, and fleeting glimpses of objects that move in ways no human-made machine should. Equally unsettling are the claims of scientists like Dr. Sergei Bulat, a Russian microbiologist who, in 2013, announced the discovery of unknown bacterial DNA in the waters of Lake Vostok, a subglacial lake buried beneath miles of ice. The DNA did not match any known organism on Earth, leading to speculation that it might be of extraterrestrial origin or belong to a life form that had evolved in complete isolation for millions of years.
So this iceberg is absolutely ginormous. It's 5 times the New York City land area and 1,000 feet deep.
Shortly after his announcement, Dr. Bulat's research was abruptly classified, and he was barred from speaking further about his findings. The implications are staggering. If life exists in such extreme conditions beneath Antarctica's ice, what else might be hidden there? Could there be entire ecosystems, or even intelligences, thriving in the darkness below? The testimonies of contractors and support personnel stationed in Antarctica add another layer to the mystery. One such individual, a former logistics engineer who worked at McMurdo Station in the early 2000s, recounted an incident in which a team of specialists arrived unannounced, accompanied by armed guards, and demanded access to a restricted storage facility. Inside, the engineer claimed to have seen crates marked with symbols he did not recognize, along with what appeared to be advanced machinery of unknown purpose. When he asked questions, he was told in no uncertain terms that his curiosity was a security risk. Months later, he was abruptly reassigned, his security clearance revoked without explanation. Stories like his are disturbingly common among those who have worked on the continent. Whispers of hidden facilities, sudden personnel changes, and unmarked aircraft arriving and departing at odd hours. Perhaps most chilling are the accounts of researchers who claim to have encountered physical evidence of ancient, possibly non-human, structures buried beneath the ice. One geologist, speaking on condition of anonymity, described discovering a series of perfectly geometric formations during a seismic survey, structures that bore no resemblance to natural geology. When he attempted to report his findings, his equipment was confiscated, and he was ordered to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Another researcher, part of a deep ice drilling team, spoke of retrieving core samples containing metallic fragments with properties unlike any known alloy. These fragments were immediately seized by military personnel, and the team was warned against discussing what they had found. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Whether they are pilots, scientists, or military personnel, those who have glimpsed Antarctica's secrets share a common thread. They have been silenced, their discoveries buried, their lives altered by forces they do not fully understand. The question is no longer whether something strange is happening in Antarctica, but what, exactly, is being hidden, and why. As more whistleblowers come forward, their stories form a mosaic of high strangeness that points to a truth far beyond conventional understanding. Antarctica may be the key to unraveling one of the greatest mysteries of our time.
While climate change is thinning the Antarctic ice pack, experts don't think it caused this piece to break off.
A mystery that someone, or something, seems determined to keep hidden at all costs. Do you have what it takes to be a whistleblower? If you have any information, any anomaly or odd patterns you too have noticed, any theories that would help make sense of this madness, reach out to us in the comments and shed some light on what the world wants to keep hidden. Until then, we'll keep sharing what we know. Google Earth anomalies. What are they hiding? Antarctica's frozen expanse has long been a black hole of classified information, but in the digital age, satellite imagery has begun chipping away at the ice wall of secrecy. Google Earth, with its high-resolution mapping of the planet's most remote corners, has become an unlikely battleground between truth-seekers and whatever entities guard Antarctica's mysteries. The anomalies captured in these images form a disturbing mosaic, one that suggests the continent is anything but the barren wasteland we've been told. Among the most infamous discoveries is the so-called Snow Pyramid near the Ellsworth Mountains. First spotted in 2016, the structure appears to be a near-perfect, four-sided pyramid rising from the ice, its edges too precise to be dismissed as a natural rock formation. Geologists argue it could be a nunatak, a mountain peak protruding through glacial ice, but the symmetry defies geological norms. Even more unsettling are the shadows cast by the structure, which suggest hollow spaces beneath its base. Similar formations have been found in clusters, arranged in geometric patterns that mirror ancient sites like Giza. Then there are the crashed disks. Multiple users have flagged metallic saucer-shaped objects partially embedded in ice shelves, their smooth curves and uniform thickness standing out against the jagged terrain. One such anomaly measures approximately 60 meters in diameter and appears to have left a mile-long trench in the ice before coming to rest. The object's surface reflects light differently than the surrounding ice, suggesting a metallic composition.
His airplane is taken control of when he suddenly sees these flying disc-shaped objects around them.
Attempts to revisit the speculated coordinates in subsequent years often reveal blurred or digitally altered imagery, a pattern repeated near other sensitive sites. Perhaps most alarming are the bleeding glaciers, regions where the ice appears stained rust red, as if bleeding from within. While scientists attribute this to algae blooms, the coloration often radiates from central points in perfect spirals or concentric circles. Thermal overlays show these areas emitting heat signatures inconsistent with microbial activity, and in some cases, the stains shift position between satellite passes, as if moving beneath the ice. But the anomalies aren't limited to static structures. Time-lapse sequences have captured fast-moving shadows skimming the ice at speeds exceeding 1,000 miles per hour, far faster than any known aircraft. These shadows leave no visible source, no craft to account for their trajectory. In 2019, a Polish researcher documented a shadow that abruptly changed direction at a 90-degree angle without slowing, a maneuver impossible for conventional physics. The footage was scrubbed from his YouTube channel within hours, reinstated days later with the crucial frames missing. Then there's the censorship. Whole sectors of Antarctica, particularly around the Transantarctic Mountains and Marie Birdland, are routinely blurred or pixelated on Google Earth. Official explanations cite image stitching errors, yet these errors only occur in regions linked to historical UFO sightings or missing expeditions. When users compare older satellite images to current ones, they find entire landforms altered or erased. Most damning are the vanishing lakes, massive liquid bodies visible in 2005 imagery that appear frozen solid in later updates, despite being in the same coordinates and climate conditions. The most disturbing pattern? Heat without fire. Thermal imaging reveals patches of ice emitting temperatures upwards of 50 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to melt through glaciers, with no volcanic activity or geothermal vents to explain them. These hotspots often coincide with the geometric anomalies, forming a grid-like pattern across the continent. A former McMurdo technician, speaking anonymously, claimed these hotspots align perfectly with underground resonance chambers, detected by Russian seismic surveys in the 1990s, chambers that emit a 17 Hz infrasound pulse known to induce dread in humans. What makes these Google Earth findings so compelling is their sheer volume. One anomaly could be dismissed as pareidolia or glitches, but hundreds, arranged in patterns, shifting over time and systematically censored, paint a portrait of deliberate concealment. The ice, it seems, is a screen, and behind it, something is moving. The question is no longer if Antarctica hides something, but how deep the deception goes, and who or what is orchestrating the cover-up from the shadows of our digital age. The global cover-up. Why the secrecy? The deeper one digs into Antarctica's mysteries, the more apparent it becomes that the silence surrounding the continent is not accidental. It is deliberate, systematic, and enforced at the highest levels of global power. What could possibly warrant such an unprecedented, multinational effort to suppress the truth? The answer may lie in the realization that Antarctica is not just another landmass, but rather a vault containing secrets so profound that their revelation could rewrite human history, challenge our understanding of existence, and potentially destabilize the very foundations of modern society. Consider the Antarctic Treaty System, signed in 1959 by 12 nations and since expanded to include dozens more. On the surface, it appears to be a noble agreement preserving the continent for peaceful scientific research. But the treaty's unusual clauses, particularly those restricting independent exploration and granting sweeping authority to military personnel, hint at something far more consequential. Former treaty negotiators have quietly admitted that certain provisions were included not for environmental protection, but to control access to areas where anomalous phenomena had been documented. This explains why violations of no-fly zones are met with such severe repercussions, and why research teams studying certain regions are always accompanied by armed escorts. The treaty, in essence, functions as a global gag order, ensuring that whatever lies beneath the ice remains undisturbed and undisclosed. The scale of the cover-up suggests the involvement of forces beyond any single government. Whistleblowers from intelligence communities have described a shadowy consortium they call the Ice Committee, an informal alliance of military, scientific, and corporate entities from multiple nations working in concert to contain Antarctica's secrets. According to these sources, the committee operates through a network of shell companies and black budgets, funneling billions into clandestine research while systematically discrediting or disappearing those who ask too many questions. Its mandate appears to be threefold: to study the phenomena, to reverse engineer any recoverable technology, and above all, to prevent public knowledge of discoveries that could shatter humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. What could be so earth-shattering as to justify such extreme measures? The most plausible theory is that Antarctica holds evidence of a non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or ancient terrestrial.
With the stories that we hear from numerous accounts of angelic or extraterrestrial type beings
that has been interacting with select human factions for decades, if not longer. The consistent reports of UFO activity, the rumored underground facilities, and the whispered accounts of agreements with otherworldly entities all point to a reality where we are not alone, and where those in power have been negotiating with these forces without public consent. This would explain why Admiral Byrd's warnings about enemy aircraft that could fly pole to pole at incredible speeds were suppressed, why scientists studying anomalous signals beneath the ice are routinely silenced, and why private expeditions to certain regions mysteriously vanish without trace. In the end, Antarctica remains one of Earth's last great mysteries. Brian S.'s testimony, along with others like it, suggests that we are not being told the full story. Whether the secrets involve aliens, lost civilizations, or classified human projects, one thing is certain: Antarctica is not just ice, and someone doesn't want us to know what's really there. The question is, will the truth ever surface? Or will it remain frozen in secrecy, waiting for the right moment to emerge? This is your turn to speak the truth. Tell us what you know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.